Welcome to Share the Load, the podcast, brought to you by the DPJ Foundation. This is a space for honest conversations, real stories and shared experiences, shining a light on the challenges we face and reminding each other that none of us have to carry the load alone. In each episode, we'll be talking with people from across our community, exploring life, work, mental health and the realities that shape us, the good, the difficult and everything in between. Before we begin, we want to let you know that some episodes may include sensitive topics, including discussions around mental health and suicide. If at any point you find the content upsetting, please take a moment, pause and look after yourself. If you or someone you know needs support, we encourage you to reach out to a trusted person or a professional organisation. You can also call our 24/7 call line on 0800 587 4262 and you can find further information on our website. This is Share the Load.
Croeso i'r Rhannwch y Baich, y podlediad a ddygwyd I chi gan sefydliad DPJ. Mae hwn yn lle ar gyfer sgyrsiau gonest, straeon go iawn, a phrofiadau ar enir, gan daflu goleini ar yr heriau rydym yn ei hwynebu ac atgoffa'n gilydd nad oes rhaid i'r un ohonom gario'r baich ar ei pennu ein hunain. Ym mhob penod, byddwn nhw'n siarad â phobl o bob cornel o'n cymuned, gan archwilio bywyd, gwaith, iechyd meddwl a reality sy'n ei llunio. Y da, yr anodd, a phopeth rhyngddynt. Cyn I ni ddechrau, rydym am roi gwybod I chi y gallai rhai penodau gynnwys pynciau sensitif, gan gynnwys trafodaethau ynghylch iechyd meddwl a hunanladdiad. Os byddwch chi ar unrhyw adeg yn teimlo bod y cynnwys yn ofidus, cymerwch eiliad, oedwch, a gofalwch amdanoch eich hun. Os oes angen cefnogaeth arnoch chi, neu rhywun rydych chi'n ei adnabod, rydym yn eich annog I gysylltu â pherson dibynadwy neu sefydliad proffesiynol. Gallwch hefyd ffonio ein llinell alwadau 24 awr y dydd, 7 diwrnod yr wythnos ar 0800 587 42 62 a dod o hyd I ragor o wybodaeth ar ein gwefan. Dyma Rhannwch y Baich.
We are here today talking about mental health and education, and especially education within agriculture. So myself, Emma, I'm hosting.
And I'm Kate, and I'm the charity manager. I'm helping Emma out, asking some questions.
Helping me out?
Well,
we're doing this together, I thought.
Well, you're the boss, Emma.
Don't start this nonsense again. Anyway, we move on. We'll argue on the podcast. Yeah. We're joined by 3 special guests today. If you'd like to introduce yourself, Katie, you want to start off?
Katie Davies, lecturer at Bridgend College and farming Ogmore Valley, South Wales.
Come on, give us the last bit. And you're also Wales woman.
Oh, I won.
Come on, you can't leave that bit out.
Yeah, I won Wales Woman Farm of the Year in 2023.
Amazing.
And I just won Beef Farm of the Year, the British Farming Awards.
Amazing, incredible. You can't leave those accolades out, what I was saying. And Gwenna?
My name is Gwenna Maycock. I'm a second year vet student in Aberystwyth from a farming background, but I'm also president of the Veterinary Society.
Amazing. And Stuart.
And I'm Stuart Williams. I run a farm alongside my parents at home. We've also diversified into a farm education area where we have groups of school children and adults that come during the week. But I am also a lecturer of agriculture and animals in Pembrokeshire College.
Brilliant. And thank you so much for joining us today. I know some of you made quite a trip to sort of join us. I was really grateful. So as I mentioned, this kind of whole podcast is about education really. And what we want to really do is sort of delve into your understanding and how you see mental health within your kind of areas at the moment. So I know you've mentioned a little bit about your areas in with regards to education. So can you tell us a little bit more about what you do with regards to education and agriculture and how that kind of works, what you do?
So I've been teaching for 14 years now, so I came straight out of uni, it was quite fresh, and straight into teaching. Never really planned to go into teaching, always wanted to go home and farm, and like with everything, there wasn't enough money in the farm for me to come home and draw a wage, so I had to find a job, and I just sort of fell into teaching at the local college. Started out as an associate lecturer and built my way up to senior lecturer now. I love it. Teach from level 1 all the way up to H&D level. So a whole sort of range of abilities, and I teach sort of animal health, sheep production, animal husbandry, a bit of business work experience. So yeah, again, a range of different sort of topics as well.
Yeah.
What sort of ages are the students you're teaching, Katie?
So anything sort of 16 plus, but I would say sort of, yeah, the average is, 16 to 21 really, but we have a few mature students as well. But yeah, they're mostly in that age range.
I know we talked obviously previously, and you were saying about how a lot of the students, some of the students are not from a farming background, and you've got some are and things like that. How do the students that are coming in from a non-farming background then manage within that kind of agricultural? Because it's quite a unique sort of industry.
It's quite funny really, because we've got a real mix of farming and non-farming, and every year is different. The intake, some years we'll have a lot of farming and vice versa. But yeah, they cope quite well, to be honest with you, and a lot of them are really keen. They've got a sort of clean slate, as I call it, so they've got no previous experience, which sometimes isn't easy. But on the other side, they look at things differently and they see things differently, and they ask lots of questions. So they're all different, but like some of the best students I've ever had and turned out to have been from non-farming backgrounds. So I think it's how you seize that opportunity and what you make of it, regardless of your background and where you come from and your sort of previous knowledge.
Yeah. So. And you obviously then are working with quite some younger students, presumably, and then some of sort of that blows, like 16, aren't you, Stuart?
Yeah. So at home, we have weekly visits from 6-year-olds up to the college. So wide range. A lot of the schools that come to our farm are probably 14-year-olds, haven't grasped the idea of education. So actually the agriculture route is something a bit more practical. And a lot of them are actually really interested in taking it on as a future career. In the college-wise, like level 1 right the way through to level 3, and we're 16 plus, got a few mature, a bit like Katie's got.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I totally agree. A lot of the students, if they're not from farming background, everything you teach them, they absorb it. They're fresh to it. They're like sponges. But a lot of the ones that come from a farming background are very often, at home we do it like this.
Old habits.
At home we do it like that.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you've got
My
to
granddad
broaden
did it
your
like this.
broaden your view,
That's
isn't
the
it?
classic. That's the classic. I'll question a student in class and I'll say, okay, so why do you do that? And they'll say, because that's how dad does it, or that's how mum does it. And they're like, yeah, but why do they do it? And it's like it's the understanding behind the actions, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really interesting. But yeah,
I suppose that's like a bit of an issue, kind of, really, sort of in the sector, is that we are kind of very much governed by those generations before us, aren't we? Because we do. That's what we do. You same as me. We've been on Kids on the Farm, and you learn from those sorts of things, don't you? But in the same sense, you're not necessarily learning the right way of doing it.
And I mean, that's absolutely not to say that the way that they've learned is wrong, because it's absolutely not. And
just different.
Traditional farming methods are really, really important, and we embrace those. It's getting students to think differently and be more open-minded about, different farming methods, for example, and different ways of doing things. And there's no wrong or right. There's just different ways, and there's different farms, different landscapes, different communities, and there is no right one way. You've got then, and it's just getting students to think that way. And for me, it's about building those students that are really resilient, because we know the industry is so challenging. They've got to be resilient. There's one thing I do see a difference in, and I say I don't want to compare them too much, but like the students that come from a farming background and then students that don't. Those farming students, they've got that resilience built into them. It's like part of their DNA, and they can cope with change and things. Better sometimes, than the non-farming students. And I think it's just, I don't know why, but I just think that as farmers we are resilient, and I suppose that's something that we pass on. So.
Going off what you said then, it was very much like when I went to uni, my parents said, we don't really want to see you at weekends, because what we want you to do is go to other places, see what other farmers do.
Get immersed in it.
Make your friends, who are going to be your friends for life, but also learn their way of doing things. Experience other farms, not just come back to Pembrokeshire at weekends. And
And that's a big cultural shift, really, isn't it? Because like historically, the idea is that 16, you're there and you get on with it and you crack on, and like the idea of being on other farms and even going to university really is quite a modern kind of thing, isn't it? With regards to kind of farming and that, back in the day there was no such thing as that. I think my dad, he's not here now so I can say it, but my dad barely finished school, the thought of going to college, university was so far away from that, but now these opportunities are there. And I know Stuart, we spoke about my daughter now coming up to her GCSEs and having the option to choose agriculture is massive. The options like that are huge, aren't they? And you mentioned about resilience and things. You've obviously taught for the last 14 years. Stuart, you've been there a few years now. Are you seeing a little bit of a shift in the way that you do things, in the sense that do you have to now look at that side of things a little bit more? Is there kind of that added element of your job where you're looking at the well-being of your students a little bit more potentially?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, there has been a big shift probably in the last 5 or 6 years particularly. I think the farming community is potentially opening up more and talking about mental health, because obviously, in the past it was more of a taboo subject and people didn't want to talk about it, and if you had mental health issues you were, bonkers or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what people saw it as. And, organisations like DPJ and RABI and things have really opened up those conversations. And we definitely see in college that the significance of well-being and the importance of it. We've got a really strong well-being team that work alongside the academic team, and we can point the students in their direction and get them involved in those conversations. But it is something, and even on teacher level, that we need to be able to identify sort of changes in behaviour, and sometimes they're like really subtle changes, or sometimes they're really obvious, like changes in behaviour and attendance and things like that, but sometimes they're not as obvious as perhaps you might think. It's important for us that as well, I think, that we get the right training so we can spot those things, because before we didn't really think about it. I just turned up and I did my job and I sort of taught and that was it, but I think we've got a key role to play, even if I'm not the one giving the sort of expert advice, but I can point them in the right direction. I mean, sometimes you do find students, they don't want to go to wellbeing. They just want to talk to whoever they feel comfortable talking to, and sometimes we've got a really good agri team there, but sometimes it's me, sometimes it's one of my colleagues. It's whoever they feel comfortable with, and I'll say that to them. I was like, look, do you want to have a chat? What's going on? I was like, you don't have to tell me. You can, who do you want to talk to? You can talk to Di if you want. So I think that's really important.
I totally agree with that. Like, Pembrokeshire College has got massive wellbeing, safeguarding, the whole team, and you work as a team. It's not the case of point them in that direction. It's very much okay, who do you want to speak to? And that's really important, because they'll feel comfortable speaking to me rather than somebody else, and that's the way that you've got to do it. And I think one thing that I've noticed is, we spoke earlier about the agricultural students that come from that background versus the non-agricultural. When those worlds collide, that very often will trigger an agricultural person or a non-agricultural person to have a bit of a breakdown.
Okay.
And I think it's important to be there and realise, like, some in the past, when they're young, they've been through a few things, but actually those little triggers, they don't think about them until somebody just says something else. And it might be from that different background that they say it, but it really makes a difference and gets them to actually start talking. And it's surprising how many of the non-agricultural people will just say something that's kind of like not really meaning much to them, but it'll trigger a rural person to actually, I need to think about this and need help for it.
So Gwenna, you've moved from living on a farm, or being from a farming background in Pembrokeshire, to Aberystwyth to study vet. So you've moved in a slightly different direction. How has that been for you? How's the movement from rural area into a town which is bustling and has got a population of thousands to how has that been?
I think it's been quite a big change. I was really quite nervous before going to university. I was in Pembrokeshire College about 2 years ago, so I feel very young on this podcast. Underqualified, I think, is the better word.
No, not at all.
But
You're just making us look old, that's the only thing.
but yeah, moving to Aberystwyth, I was absolutely terrified going, and even maybe more so because with the veterinary science course, you do 2 years in Aberystwyth and then 3 up in London, the final 3 years, and those are coming up soon, and that's even more terrifying again, moving to a city. I mean, technically I think it's outside of London, but it's
a big move.
I'm from Pembrokeshire, it definitely feels like
yeah.
London. And so that switch in itself was like quite scary. But actually what you were just saying about non-agriculture / agriculture, like students mixing, is a little bit what's happened in our course. And I am sort of in a lucky position. I'm sort of from a farming background in that it's our grandparents' farm, so my aunt and uncle are the ones that farm it, whereas I have grown up in like a village rather than on the farm itself. So I've got a little bit of both worlds. And what you were saying earlier about students being able to then go on placements and see other farms is one of the things I've loved most about Aberystwyth as a vet school. It's very focused on the farming side of veterinary, and just seeing the difference in practice on my placements from like a massive dairy herd compared to our like teeny tiny little organic one it does make you think about a lot of different things and the ways that you were saying that people we do this because this is the way it's always been done. And even just conversations with some of my best friends who are from like they've grown up on farms, and last year we used to talk quite a lot and we're like, we don't really do that because you do it this way and we do it this way, and having seen more because of university, I now understand where she was coming from way more, because I'm like, that makes more sense because I've seen the other side of it.
And the education part of it is really important, isn't it? To be able to have that formal education, isn't it?
Yeah, and well, what you were saying about agri has now been offered as a GCSE. I think if that was offered, to be honest, at the time of my GCSEs, I wanted to be a musical theatre. I didn't think I was going to be a vet.
That's a switch.
But I think it's such a brilliant thing that a lot more places are now offering it. I know Fishguard now does, and I think it would have been brilliant if we were in school at the time, because it does make you think about things in a way that you might not have before, especially because it's taught rather than it's just this is what the farms do, or this is what people say in my FC. It's actually learning the difference, and I think that's
and I think it's like that very kind of like focused way of giving people other options, you know, like you said, the way that they might be doing it at home and the farm might be a great way of doing it, but it's those other options you get, and that'll be able to learn and evolve. And I think in our sector there has to be that constant involvement, because otherwise businesses they're not going to survive, are they? So we mentioned about resilience, and I know you talked about how quite a lot of the agricultural students show a lot of resilience with that, but what we know is that actually in kind of personal life there's not a huge amount of resilience when it comes to mental well-being, especially a lot of young men in our sector. So presumably a lot of your students are young men. Is there like a mix between men and women?
Mix, yeah.
Yeah, good mix,
Total mix, yeah.
Why do you think then that they're showing, you know, they're able to show that good resilience within the work ethic and, you know, the farming side of it, but actually when it comes to personal resilience, like our sector, we know finds that really difficult to be able to overcome those kind of thoughts of, like, you know, the mental well-being and you know, let's be honest, suicide as well. You know, why are we not able to transfer those, do you think?
So on a personal level, my hardest part about going through my education was actually the day that I stopped. I went from being surrounded by everybody to being at home on my own. My dad was there, but there was 2 of us. We were very often separate, and that is when it hit me. So mental health was a massive issue at that point. When I was in college, university, everything, I had people around me, but it's that time when I stepped back and became isolated. So
it hit home then.
Yeah,
and you've obviously been through, you know, various things over the years, and like you hope to mind me saying about, you know, the really substantial issues with TB on the farm, haven't there? And I think obviously when things like that happen, you know, I think as farmers we've got a certain amount of control to a certain extent over things, and I think we can show resilience, can't we then? Because we're like, right, I know that's broken, I can fix that, you know. And you know, with you talking about dissecting animals and things, and we learn more about animals, so we're able to treat them. But so then when there's things out of our control, that's where the resilience really struggles, isn't it?
I think I think isolation obviously plays a massive part in rural communities across Wales, but Emma made a good point then, in terms of the things that we can control and things we can't control. And in farming, there is probably more things that we can't control than we can. And I think, you know, myself, you know, that I felt before as well, that you know, we often quite feel, you know, under attack, you know, from the media, the government, you know, and you know, farmers are constantly, you know, quite often getting the blame for all sorts of things, you know, climate change and polluting rivers, and, you know, the list is endless, and we know that that's not true. But yeah, I think that there's all of those sort of pressures that are sort of evolving and constantly sort of ongoing and changing as well. So it's keeping up is such a sort of fast-paced industry. Like, everything's constantly changing and evolving. So that in itself is just stressful, isn't it? As well as just like doing the everyday jobs, which is the easy part, isn't it? I mean, that's the bit that everyone enjoys, is just getting up and
that's where they can show that resilience. Isn't it?
It's feeding the stock, or you know, checking the stock.
They know that inside out.
And we know that, you know, those things are generally okay, and that we can, you know, fix those things. But I guess it's the bigger picture that we can't control, and then not being able to be in control of those things then can be quite difficult then.
There's not many industries that you are told how much you have to pay for stuff to arrive on the farm, and you are told how much you are going to be paid when it leaves the farm.
We literally had this conversation this morning with my dad, and, you know, he finished milking not long after Dan passed away, and we had the conversation about, you know, how ridiculous it is that we are so governed by, you know, a neighbour of ours has recently said about the 15p drop in milk prices, and he said that's just absolutely horrendous. And in which other industry would you be able to be, you know, you're told that. Imagine making an item and then being like, oh, by the way, you're not allowed to sell it for that much, and there is no other industry, and it's so difficult, I think, for other people to understand that and understand those pressures, isn't it?
And I think that's why education, you know, that's why we're here today, is so important, and it plays, you know, a huge role, you know, from primary school level all the way through. You know, I quite often go into primary schools as well and talk to children about, you know, food and farming and where their food comes from. Because, you know, we need to tell our story. We need to talk to people and tell them, you know, what's going on, you know, the good bits and the bad bits. I mean, I use social media myself, and I'm not a guru or anything, but I like to use social media to tell my story, and I put videos and pictures of the farm and things. But I'm quite actually bad at that. So I do all the good stuff, but I very little bad stuff I put on there. So I'm not very good at doing that. But so there are people out there that are very good at it, and they'll tell, you know, they'll show the good and the bad. And
is that a conscious decision that you don't put the bad stuff, or is it just?
Yeah, it is a conscious decision. Yeah, it's just, I think it's just me. I just don't like talking about the bad stuff. And I like to be positive.
Absolutely.
And I like to show everybody like the good work that we're doing. But I think sometimes it is really important that, you know, we, especially when we're talking to, you know, it's not so important when we're talking to farmers. Well, I say that, it probably is actually, because everybody likes to know that you're not the only one that's in that situation. So yeah, it probably is equally as important. But I think when you're talking to consumers and people, the general public, then it is, you know, it's important that they know the tough stuff that's going on. And
see, and I'm a bit the opposite in the fact of when we went through our TB, I had a gut feeling straight away that it was going to be bad, and I was posting every test, everything about our story, and obviously it went completely wrong, out of our control. But actually, the amount of people now with the education farm, the amount of people that come and speak to me, and like I've had young men and women come to the farm. They don't want to look at the animals; they see them every day. They just want to find me, and they'll sit there, have a cup of tea, and they'll bawl their eyes out. But what is wrong with that? Like that is, I've done it. I was lucky I had a strong family that I did that with, and connections with different people. But if they see me as somebody who's been through it and want to speak about it, like we're probably not good enough at selling ourselves.
Absolutely.
As a farming
as
community,
an industry,
like when you look globally, if you Americans, for instance, they sell everything. They're fantastic at being so positive about their industry. UK, everyone probably takes it a bit for granted.
I think we see ourselves as a necessity. You know, we see ourselves as like somebody, we need to provide this. It's not something that people want. Whereas actually maybe we need to shift that energy a little bit, and things actually, we need to look at it and market it as things that people will want. You know, you want to have this because it's good for you, and then providing all of those benefits and things that go around with that is really important, isn't it?
And like this week I've looked at, it came up on social media, that actually we are one of the listed criterias that wouldn't go to a war Food
Okay.
producers,
Yeah,
farmers.
absolutely.
We
In
are
the
theirs.
previous
Please
roles.
tell me teachers
Yeah.
are on there as well.
I'm afraid not. But you live on the farm, so you could link yourself.
I always take me back to World War II. I'm going on the train with the kids. I am going to be evacuating.
Like, we are on that list.
Yeah.
There's 5, I think there is, and we are on that list
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
farmers, food producers, and we're not treated
No.
like we are on that list.
Yeah. And that's like bound to have like an impact then, isn't it, on your mental well-being as well. And obviously, we talked about you kind of part of this, like you mentioned you're a lot younger than us, but going into that, vets then as well, there's a high suicide rate among vets in this industry as well, as well as farmers. With regards to kind of resilience amongst kind of your, fellow students and things like that, is that something you see? Is it something that you're worried about potentially?
Well, that's a big reason of why we ended up doing a lot of it with the DPJ, and I think we're going to continue to do more in the future, hopefully, is because we do get taught, because obviously it's very important. We get people to come in and give talks and things like Papyrus, but sometimes the way that we're taught is always like, vets have got a really high rate of suicide, so we're going to tell you about the statistics. And sometimes it doesn't really feel like it's very beneficial. You're learning about what happens rather than why or how to prevent it. So as a society, I really want to do something. So you came and you gave a really lovely talk, and so many people since then have come to me and said how brilliant it was. I think I'm quite keen to have you back again.
Thanks.
Because it wasn't just teaching us what and why, but also like how to look for it in other people, how to watch out for ourselves. In terms of what you're saying about social media and always like trying to put the good, and then you saying about putting the bad, I think that's always a really good mix, because a lot of the time we will only see the good things on social media, and like it is like rose-tinted glasses, they say, or sometimes you will only hear like the negatives, and obviously in life it's just a bit of everything every day.
Absolutely,
and, a lot of the time you don't really realise that. I didn't realise a lot of the things that came up in that meeting that we had about just my friends or the people around me, the stuff they spoke about, I would never have had any idea about. And I think that's why it's so important that we do have places where we can talk and feel a bit more relaxed to admit things that we might not have said before, because it's not just letting other people know around you like what you're going through, because obviously that's important, like you said, but you said you had a family that was really supportive of you, and I think sometimes a lot of people don't, or within farming you do have your family around you, but you don't really want to bother them because they go through the same thing as you. And
we had a discussion this morning about sometimes people are just a bit too close.
they're
just that little bit too close to be able to offload on. And you said you're with your dad and yet you're working, with your husband or whatever that may be all day every day to offload on that person. You see them then, the hour later, and it's really difficult then, because you've kind of offloaded that. It's really tricky, isn't
and for
it?
a very young person, like whether in college, uni, or wherever they are, like to work with your older generation, they might see it as a weakness.
Yeah.
Because the older generation are usually come across as that tougher face. Don't show their weakness.
A lot to live up to, isn't it?
The next generation, if they want to speak, they can't. There's a boundary because of that.
Have you found that difficult, Stu, in the sense that generational farming, and then in that sense that, do you feel like there's like a lot not to live up to, but this is, these have gone before us and fine, and they've managed that fine and things like that. Like, have you managed to get quite a kind of pragmatic view on it, and like, actually what I'm dealing with now is so different to what anyone else has dealt with?
Yeah, I think so. I was really lucky because my grandfather was very machinery based.
Okay.
And I didn't always get on with him.
Okay.
And so it pushed me towards the livestock.
Yeah.
My dad was very even, just loved farming.
Bit of both, yeah.
And because of my interest in livestock, like the dairy herd just blossomed.
Yeah.
But I can totally see that there is a generational,
butting of heads.
I think one of the things that we sometimes come across is people who've maybe been in education and they've learnt alternative ways of farming, which really fire them up. They get enthused with, oh my goodness, I could see how this might work on our farm. And then they go home to the farm, and then that button of heads happens. They try to implement sometimes it's really small scale changes, and they get the door closed. No. And that can be a real, it can be a real challenge for somebody, particularly for their mental health, because they're then left questioning, well, can I, at 25 or whatever they might be, spend the rest of my life, or the next 20 years of my life in this situation where I'm not actually making decisions, I'm not being able to influence anything. Or what's the alternative? Do I go and work for somebody else? Do I, buying a farm isn't an option, is it? It's not...
And it's almost, at what stage do I say, do you know what, I can't do this?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's when those conversations are really important, because I agree with what Kate said. Like, I've heard so many of those stories. And I think we're trying to create now sort of like a new generation of farmers, this kind of open-minded and wants to travel, wants to look and come home, but go and see the world and see what's going on and see how people do things differently. And those conversations are challenging, but I think they need to happen. And I'm not, it's not always the answer, I know, but I think it depends. And again, it goes back to what you said about support networks as well. Some students, or they'll have a really good support network, and they can have those conversations, and then others, then, like you say, they're afraid of being judged, or they're afraid of being told, "Oh, what a load of nonsense!" we're not doing that.
Yeah.
So, it's a really tricky one.
And I sort of wonder whether the role of certainly university, but also in terms of ag colleges as well. Is there a space for you to be able to, I know I've done work with both of you, around being able to equip those young people to, because I can barely remember being 16, 17, 18, but you are idealistic, don't you? You think you can take on the world, you think you can change everything, that that you can make things happen. To be able to manage those expectations, or equip them to be able to have the difficult conversations, to be able to know that there's not just one pathway perhaps, but there might be multiples.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you yourself, you've come into college and done some various workshops, but I think perhaps that's something that, specifically we could look at in the future, that, how do you have those difficult conversations, and how you deal with that and move forward, really, and that maybe small steps, and what are the other, like you said, options and opportunities out there.
I'm sure I probably speak on behalf of everyone who teaches agriculture, whatever level, is you've got to teach students, learners, whatever you want to call them, the real life scenarios.
Yeah.
You teach them from a textbook, you can get them to pass, but actually teaching them real life is the future. And not everything is idealistic.
No.
Like our learners come to our farm, we've got a wide range of buildings, and we've adapted, we've changed, we've learnt, and I'm very open with them. I'll show them the good, the bad, and things that affect me, I'm not afraid to say, I've struggled doing that. I've struggled doing this. Like, we're not all perfect.
Yeah. So you've recently come out of education yourself, and in your higher education, and obviously all of you as well, really. Do you think then we need to be looking at more implementation of kind of mental well-being and understanding of mental health within our curriculum? You said you have a syllabus to teach from, and obviously I teach from the Welsh curriculum in my job. Within your kind of university studies, should there be more focus on actually, we know that farmers are at high risk of suicide, we know that vets are high risk of suicide. Should the syllabus reflect that and be able to kind of provide these, we talked about education being really important, should that reflect that and provide these students with, units maybe that are about resilience and mental well-being and supporting themselves? Do you think that's necessary, or do you think there's something that maybe should just be ingrained in kind of everything you do? What are your thoughts on that?
I think, definitely. I've especially seen I don't know if it's because the vet school in Aberystwyth is quite new, and so they've got a brand new curriculum. But I almost jumped in earlier when you said about support networks, is because something they're really keen to teach us is the reality, is that vets are some of the closest people that are there to farmers. You said you've got you and your dad, and then the vet turns up, and you come onto the farm rather than someone seeking you out. And I remember you in your talk was speaking about how vets are now often trusted a lot on the farm, and someone will admit things to you. And so we need the ability and the knowledge behind us to sort of help them if they do come to us, but also to look after ourselves. And I've certainly seen in Aberystwyth a massive focus, and it's spoken about quite a lot, is how important we are, not as you're there for the animals really, but you're also
for yourself.
And your patients are animals, but your clients are the people. And so
That's really positive to hear, actually. And I think from like my perspective, I teach very young children, so it's around, like, you know, and well-being is a part of my curriculum, and it's nice to know that that's kind of a very good advert for Aberystwyth University as well. They'll be paying you to go out and advertise for them. Stuart, Katie, do you have any thoughts on that at all?
Personally, I kind of see it as it should be involved in everything that you teach.
Like ingrained.
Yeah, it should be your bread and butter.
Yeah.
There is no point in like focusing on one thing. Agriculture, you can't just focus on one thing.
Yeah.
So you've got to be able to be that all-round kind of
Because guaranteed you focus on that and something's going to crop up and it'll have to change anyway.
Yeah, so it should be ingrained right the way through.
Yeah.
Obviously, you try and take it day by day, just like you do on a farm. Some days everyone's really interested and engaged. Other days they're not so much. You kind of got to work with your learners.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good question, really. I was just thinking about it while you were talking about it. And I think it's got to be ingrained throughout the curriculum, isn't it? Every day, you know, because like you say, things are changing. But I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't create, you know, some sort of like a short course or a workshop that you could run for, you know, colleges and universities specifically, you know, on that. You know, that would, you know, be more than useful.
I think it really helps as well that you have all got an understanding of the industry. You're all farming yourself and from a farming background, and you understand those struggles.
Yeah.
Do you find it hard to balance, because obviously, you know, you're actively farming, both of you, you're actively farming and you are looking after students, which is hard. You know, I do that as my day job. It's difficult to manage that. Do you find that juggle between managing, you know, the education and your students and your own difficulties on your farm? Is that difficult to manage?
Yeah, it's hard. You know, I've got 3 young children. I'm a partner in the family farm, and I work full time. And then on top of that, I do various other things, chairman of Glamorgan NFU and various other things. But I mean, it is challenging. But I mean, I love being busy, so you know, it's all right. But they say ask a busy person today if you want to get.
I know that's in.
So I tend to get asked to do things a lot, or chucked up, I say. But yeah, I mean, no, of course it does. It does have its challenges, and people quite often say to me, "Oh, you know, how do you do it? Like, how do you do it?" And I'm like, well, I just do. But when I think about it, I can only do the things I do because I've got a good support network. Because my mum helps me with childcare. My husband's obviously really hands-on with the children as well, and he's working on the farm. And you know, if I go away, like today now, you know, he's at home. I think he's sledging with the kids. He's not really with the kids. But
checking the sheep, obviously.
Yeah,
on a sledge.
When I told him we had the 3 kids today, he was like, but yeah, no, I think it definitely, you know, and you know, you have days where you're like, I'm completely exhausted.
Yeah.
And then days where, you know, you're living your best life. But yeah, of course it has its challenges. It's bloody mental. I mean, who would do all of those things?
Who would do it?
But yeah, that for me personally, I do it because I love the industry and I'm passionate and I'm dedicated and like I literally live and breathe it. Yeah. But you know, it's that support network. If I didn't have them, I couldn't do it, full stop.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I totally agree with everything that you've just said. It's having people around you, having the right people around you.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need a volume of people, you just need the real good ones that are going to be there to help you through your journey. And I think that we're probably quite lucky teaching agriculture in the fact of, you know you don't have to close it at the door. There's a lot of like, personal life that is left at home. Yeah. But when you're talking about your farm, your animals and things like that, you can actually share it with your learners.
Yeah, that's really nice.
It builds your rapport with the learners in a way.
I've been showing the children in my class our lambs, and like even just being able to have like a photo of the lamb up on the board, and these kids are like so excited and talking to them about numbering them. And I did have a conversation with a year 6 class a couple of years ago about ringing them, and they were just horrified. The boys were literally like that, like crossing their legs, all these town kids and stuff. But to kind of to be able to broach it, I can imagine that's a really nice feeling actually, that you're passing that on.
And like a lot of my students will sort of follow me on social media and things. So I've got like a farming page, and you know, I'll come in and they'll be like, oh yeah, I saw you doing this, and you know, it creates conversations and it builds that bridge,
that rapport, doesn't it?
I generally try and do like a weekly update of what's happened on the farm, and just keep it real.
So you've talked about social media a little bit and about kind of like the things you've done on social media. So you use it, obviously you mentioned you use it in kind of a way that you try not to, you know, put off the negative side of things and use the positive thing. You mentioned about when you had your TB you were really open about that, weren't you? How did people respond to you after you'd sort of put that out there about that?
Surprisingly, like I was doing it as almost a coping mechanism, but also to make people aware that you're not alone. Like we were not the first one, we will not be the last one, but people don't talk. So I kind of took it as this is my chance to help other people, and I'd still talk to whoever about it. And I kind of think that by talking in the way that we did, we got press coverage. It's not that I did it for that at all, but it was purely just if it helped one person, and I've said this like from the beginning of the whole thing, if it helped one person, I've succeeded in why we posted it. It was like the hardest experience of my life, and no one will ever realise how hard it was, and it still eats at me daily. Almost when I did the protest alongside Kate, that was kind of like a massive weight off my shoulders. I went through my speech about 100 times. Every time I did it, I was bubbling my eyes out. Yeah. I managed to get through my 8 minutes without crying, and then I came off, I looked at Kate and I was like, that's me gone. Aww. But for those 8 minutes, I was... That's the impact that
she
Kate has.
Probably not the first
time. But I think it's just building up that you are not alone.
Yeah.
That was my main criteria for doing it.
Yeah. I think sharing your story is important, and I said, you know, I do post mainly positive things, but, you know, there are lots of the stuff that I do post that's, you know, I talk a lot about the IHT and different things, and, I do talk about the challenges and weather and things like that. So, you know, I do you know, I'm not completely unrealistic, but...
And the other part of social media that we do is the other side is like actually with the education farm, I promote that, and I promote the animals, and it's a promotion of what we do, but also a bit of promotion for agriculture as a whole.
Yeah, and I think that's what, you know, I see it as well. It's about promoting food farming, you know, farmers, what we do, and what we provide in terms of public goods, you know, and because there's a lot of questions around that as well. But
there's nothing worse. My worst one ever was a ewe that was lambing. First lamb came out, no problem. Second lamb, it was really small, and I was like, there would have been 60, 80 people stood around watching me pull this lamb out. I was dreading it. Had a gut feeling it was not going to be good. Came out, didn't breathe. So as you do, you swing it, and everyone's like, what are you doing? All these cameras were filming me, and it was just like,
you can see the headlights now, can't you?
Then it just went
yeah,
and I was like, oh, thank God for that. You know, people don't see what you've got to go through, but actually,
Gwenna was talking about your love for like dissection, weren't you? And it sounds a bit weird to kind of anyone else. We had a discussion earlier. Gwenna really likes dissecting things when they're dead, obviously. So you're quite a straight, she's a friend. But we talked about that, didn't we? And I think, you know, there's that side of it as well, isn't it? There's like that kind of element of that investigation and that understanding, and that education is so important, and that you being able to do that, to understand, isn't it?
Yeah, and in terms of what you were saying before about like being the one to like talk to your students and then they seeing like rapport with your side of things, I definitely feel like I get to see that from the other side of things. So in terms of learning about dissections, loads of what I watch is people putting things on social media. So many vets have got accounts now, and they're brilliant because it's like the learning. Some things have come up in exams. I was like, I think I remember that a little bit more from a YouTube video than...
That is how the world has changed. Oh my God. I had to look at books.
But I think that in terms of what you say about like dissections, but just the learning in general that you get that isn't just from... It's like real life learning.
Yeah.
So as... Well, you're like obviously you're teachers, and I'm sort of it's coming up from the other side of things. But when they do take the time to explain to you and talk to like their own life to you, you do build a rapport. You find out a lot more about your like the people that are dealing with you every day. Just because the experience you have is just way beyond anything that we have yet, and. So just little things that you might say, or you're not even realising that it's actually really good advice that you're giving. Speaking into lectures that I've spoken to, you don't really think about things a lot of the time. When I was on a lambing placement, a load of things died in one day from like watery mouth, and I was really struggling that day. It was, I mean, 6 of them I think had gone within about an hour or two. And coming back then, we had to write reflective essays on whatever we wanted really, but I picked that because I got to speak to my lecturers about it and other farmers, and I was talking to my friends in YFC, and if that's just one little bit that I saw one on a 2-week placement, and obviously the things that people see every single day in, day out for their lives, a lot of the time you don't realise just what that actually had an impact on you until you do then look at someone that understands, or you speak and you talk to someone new and you didn't realise, because if you only ever speak to like your really close family, when you suddenly, like when you come in and talk to people, it's like you do end up admitting things that you didn't really think you were going to. And so in terms of the other side of it almost, I'm very appreciative of the difference that it has made. I think I've always sort of grown up around people being a little bit more open towards mental health. COVID happened when I was about 13, and that definitely affected a lot of people and made a lot of people start talking. But I think I myself have seen a shift definitely within the last 6 years, has it been?
Yeah. And you mentioned as well, like you've grown up with DPJ, which is like a really nice kind of thing to hear, really, because I think I always kind of like think, you know, it's happened in my adulthood, so I presume everyone knows about it in their adulthood, but what's really lovely to hear is that you've kind of like grown up with what we've been doing, and that's really nice. Like, do you think kind of the fact that, you know, this is talked about more, that the impact that's had on you to be more open, as you mentioned?
Definitely, I think. You're coming up to your 10th anniversary of the charity. I'm 19 now, so I was... Sorry. So I was 9, so I sort of have grown up knowing you, and just seeing the work you've done. When you were saying earlier about getting children more involved in like farm to fork, well, the Pembrokeshire Agriculture Society has their like farm to fork day now. I'm sure you were probably involved in that, aren't you? And I think that, and everyone is a lot more open about things. They talk about the realities a lot more. It's gone from being like farming something that just happens, like you said before, it's like, oh, this has to happen because we have to put food on the plate, and it's becoming more of a industry that is obviously like selling a product, but also maybe it's because I'm seeing more of it. Within like wanting to be a vet, I put myself forward quite a lot. I didn't mean to accidentally end up as the president of the Vet Society. We wanted a society, and I accidentally sort of landed in that role. But I'm really lucky that I have, because almost immediately we had a few like socials. I was like, oh, this is our new Vet Society, and I was like, I really want to do something. And we ended up organising like the Welly Walk, and then raising money for the charity, and then getting you to come and speak to us. And no one at any point was like, oh, what's that about? Like, people who are from maybe not Pembrokeshire, obviously a lot of people do know what the DPJ is, but we got the idea, I think, because of yellow wellies and the NFU sort of side of things. But there was actually there was a farmer, and we stopped at their farm halfway along the walk from Aberystwyth to Borth, because their farm is right on the coastal path, and they actually were like due a baby or something, but they said that we were welcome to stop because they heard that it was for the DPJ, and they heard about you, and they're like, oh, it's such a good cause, we just have to. And I think people know who not just you are, but more like mental health charities. I mean, even
it's a thing that's spoken about now, isn't it?
Like
it's becoming norm.
It's
becoming norm, isn't it?
Yeah, whereas it wasn't sort of many years ago. I want to go back a little bit, if it's right, to like Stu. Obviously, we were in school together.
Yeah,
we know each other a while. I'm not going to go with any of those stories. You're fine. But your background wasn't in education. Essentially, you were farming, and then I just remember all of a sudden this thing coming up like, oh, Stuart's. You at the you started up with the farm, and then all of a sudden, like, Stuart is a lecturer in college. I was like, oh my god! So how have you found that shift? Because quite often, I think farmers, much like me as a teacher, I feel I'm a little bit conditioned to think I'm a teacher, I can't do anything else. And farmers, I think, are a little bit similar in that sense of like they farm and that's what they do. So making that shift away from that can be quite difficult. Like, that was a really brave move.
So I kind of think, if I'm going back years and years ago, before I knew Emma,
that was a long time ago.
I actually wrote on a piece of paper, and I found it not so long ago, that if I was not a farmer, I wanted to be a teacher.
Did you?
Yes. And now I'm like doing both. Double life.
Yeah.
But actually, when I was kind of forced into it, in the way that
because of the TB.
At the stage of TB, going back to what you said about Pembrokeshire Agricultural Society doing a pancake day. That was their first initial one.
Yeah.
And we had cows there to show where milk comes from. A black and white cow Holstein, a brown and white cow Ayrshire, and a teacher who we both went to school with, but she was the teacher of that class, said to me, we were milking the black and white cow and everything was amazing. Then the red and white cow, she was due to be milked in like half an hour time, and the teacher said to me, is that where strawberry milkshake comes from?
Oh, good God.
Wow.
And we went to school together.
Oh, I need to know who it is after. I think I know who it is.
And that ignited me to be like, we've got to build this gap. There's a bridge.
That's insane.
There's a bridge to build.
How do you get to our age and that's what you think? And that's the trouble, I think. Do you think, like, I think I'm a little bit naive and I just think everybody knows. Like, I'm a little bit naive to that sometimes. I just think, because that's the way I was brought up on a dairy farm. I just think everyone knows that.
They absolutely don't. So from the experience with, I think you've been involved with Cows on Tour as well, Katie. So group of farmers going into schools and talking about where food comes from and farming. And been into inner London schools, but actually some of the most eye-opening ones were the ones in Wales, where going into a school in Aberystwyth, so relatively rural-ish almost, and we were about to shear a sheep, and there's a little girl at the very front, looks like she's going to absolutely burst into tears. So we had the shearer then and said, you know, what's wrong? What's wrong there? And she said, are you going to kill the sheep? Oh. So, you know, that lack of knowledge that actually shearing is like having a hair. So I explained, well, you've got lovely hair, do you get your hair cut? Is you know, does that hurt you? No, not really, no. So that's what we're doing, we're giving the sheep a haircut. Yeah. And that's what's really important, I think, is that sort of relating back to what somebody knows rather than talking our language. Yeah. But that same child then we saw at the end of the day, and she was almost unrecognisable. She had this massive beaming smile and was really on top of the world. But that lack of knowledge, but also from teachers as well. Yeah. And that's.
I'd like to say that I know that where milkshake comes from, by the way.
Yeah.
It is. It's really frightening, and I think that is the problem. Is I think that, and I know this as a teacher, we're very much kind of given the curriculum, and it's kind of off you go. And you know, if you don't have the knowledge about that specific, you know, for example, it's like right, you need to teach about space. So I'm like quick, like learn about space to be able to do that. We're as absolutely. But we're supposed to kind of have, especially primary level, we've got to have a lot of different knowledge about these different elements of things, and it is tricky, and unless you're from that background, it is tricky. I took a sheep into school to go and shear the sheep in school, and like big school at that time, there was like nearly 400 kids sat on the thing watching me shear this sheep under the rugby posts in the field in a town now in Aberystwyth. And my dad came, because he comes everywhere, and the kids were talking to him, and he was like, oh, that's a nice lion. My dad was like, good God, that child thinks it's a lion. And, you know, he was horrified. And it is. We're kind of in a little bubble of like, this is our life, so we know what we're doing, isn't it? But the education side of it is really important. And things like Cows on Tour and things like that, you know, are really, really important. So it's good to see that those are kind of happening more often. Are you enjoying the education side of it?
Yes, 100%.
Do you love it?
Yeah. So, like, obviously it changed, farming changed. The farm, we'd thought about this diversification project, and it became a thing of, I could milk in the morning, I could milk afterwards, we could have schools in the day. Yeah. It then grew, like within 6 weeks, we went from one school to 12 schools a week, and we've just been at that right the way through for the last 3 years. We have some weeks of 15, which is crazy. And then some teacher goes, can I bring 60 kids in one day?
Who would do that? He still hasn't answered my email, by the way. I was like, I'm so glad he's coming. I'm going to pin him down for a date.
So then we like kind of went from primary school, secondary school, college came, and college was the natural progression. Yeah. Like, because I don't like to sit down and do nothing. Yeah. Don't like you, Katie.
Yeah.
Common theme.
I blame my son Harry for this. He's he was 6 at the time, I think, but he had this idea that his class would come up lambing time. So I was like, right, okay. I said, well, it could be a bit tricky because you know what it's like. Everyone's flat out, exhausted, just like mental. And we calve and lamb at the same time, which is obviously mental. And so I was like, okay, maybe I could do it. That'd be okay. So at the time, he had this really enthusiastic teacher, Miss McCarthy, and she's amazing. She left the school now, sadly, but. So yeah, she rang me up one day and she was like, so Harry said it's all right if we bring the school up for lambing. I was like, the school? You mean the class? No, the school. The school.
Thanks, Harry.
I was like, okay. I was like, oh, so in the end, the whole school came, but we sort of spread it out throughout the day.
Yeah.
We got a trailer, people trailer. So we went down on the tractor, picked them up in their classes and the people
From the school?
From the school.
That's amazing.
That's a dream day.
And so they were going through the village, they were all singing, Oh, MacDonald had a farm.
Oh my God, this
hilarious.
is brilliant.
All the parents were on the streets waving, they thought it was hilarious. But so they came and, so we hosted about 200 odd children that day.
Yeah.
Absolutely mental day, but yeah.
Nothing land or?
No, plenty of lambs.
Yeah.
No, we had plenty of lambs, and it was an incredible day, and they just loved it. And I remember talking to Abby Reid at the time. She sort of helped me through it when I was trying to organise it, and I was like stressing out about it. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to say? And she's like, just go with the flow. Just don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. And like, I didn't need to plan anything because it just
they just happened looking at it.
They were just everywhere. And it just happened. And it was an incredible day. And I always remember this. I had my children were there and they were helping. They were the helpers. The little stickers said help ahead you. And there was a little boy and he's autistic, and he was standing by the door of the shed on his own. So I walked over to him. I said, "Are you okay?" And he said, "Yeah." And he got a bit teary. And I said, "What's the matter? Are you okay?" And put my hand on his shoulder, and he just said, "This is the best day of my life." He said.
And do you know what? That is exactly it.
I was just like, and that was just like a life-changing moment.
Yeah.
It was like, for us, like, we totally take this for granted.
It's so, absolutely.
Like, completely take it for granted. They've just visited the farm. You know, they've seen some sheep and some lambs and some calves. They've sat on the tractor, the tractor ride. But like, for them, it was
massive.
It was massive.
It's huge.
It is.
The difference you can make without realising
it's so
it.
big. We talked about like real life authentic. You touched on it about kind of your vets watching like the dissections and stuff like that, and like those authentic. We call it when I teach a real life authentic experience. That's what we do, and that's kind of my job revolves around making sure these kids have those authentic experiences, because we know that kids and adults and teachers learn better from doing and being part of something, isn't it? And those sorts of experiences are massive, and you know, those things, they're the ones they're going to remember, and they're the ones they'll learn from. You know, you can sit and look at textbooks all day, but you know, if you're actually part of that and doing that, and I'm sure it's the same what you were saying, Gwenna, with your dissections, if you're doing it, you learn so much more, don't you? It's like anything, you know, with any element of life and work, if you're doing it yourself, you learn so much more from it, and the ability that you guys have to provide those experiences is incredible.
I think a funny story really about my children again, because you know, people say to me, they're like, well, what do you do with the kids on the weekend when you farm in? And I was like, well, they just got to come with me. And they're like, do they like coming with you? And I was like, yeah, most of the time, like 99% of the time, they're absolutely fine. You know, they're loving life. You know, but you know, there are moments, you know, just get back to reality where, you know, one of them's having a tantrum, or they've fallen over, or they're tired, or they've just had enough because they've been on sheep all day. But I said, you know, ultimately, you know, they just love it. They live and breathe it. You know, it is part of their life as much as mine. Yeah. But you know, it is challenging. But you know, Harry goes. I think he went into school when he was about 3 or 4. I can't remember how old. He wasn't very old. And the teacher called me up at the end of the day, and she's like, and she was in hysterics, and she said, "Oh, Harry's talking to us." They have sort of talk time where they were telling us, you know, what they've been doing on the weekend or something like that. And he was telling us how the bull planted the seed in the cows. And I said, "Oh, right, okay." She said, "Yeah, it was very educational." She was laughing. So I think, again, like farm kids, they've got that, you know, they're brought up with it, and they see life and have to understand life and death and things like that, and nature and early age. And that, again, sort of sets them apart as well. They've kind of got they're a step ahead of sort of other children.
Do you have the same dread as I do, though? Because I genuinely have dread thinking, what are they going to say?
Oh, with my second child, yeah.
Do you know, that's funny, because actually mine's the third, so you just watch out. Because like we were sorting sheep the other day, and we were injecting them. And Mally's really good. She's really keen. She's like already like drawing out, and she knows what she's doing. Very good with all that sort of thing. Hopefully that's where it stays. And Erin then likes to spray them, you know, when she's doing it. That's her little job. But she was sort of trapped in amongst sheep. And my dad just sort of grabbed her by the scruff of the neck and pulled her over the sheep to get her to the next one to spray it. In the process, her trousers just come right down. Her backside is like in the air. And I'm just like, she's going to go and tell her teacher that her ass is in the air in the middle of the thing, and she was half naked in the sheep, and I was like, oh good God, this is going to be horrendous. And I think, there we are, what I would do about it, I just laugh. So, but it fills you with a little bit of dread, doesn't it? But it's also what a great way to grow up and to have that kind of education within home, you know, is really important.
Go on, you go.
I was going to say, I haven't grown up on the farm, but I have in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I used to sit on like a barrel and watching milking, asking 101 questions.
Oh, did you?
All the time. I think my uncle got a bit, in the end, he was like, shush now.
Quiet time.
You never get bored of having questions like that.
No, I say that. It's great. He actually, I think, loves that I always like ask questions, and he's always so keen to answer. But it's quite funny because I remember being really small, and my job was the AI straws.
Yeah.
My job was to be the warmer. They'd take down my back, like following everywhere, like in a duckling on the farm.
And now you're older and you know what that is. It's like, okay, important job.
Oh, that time that I fell over and it squirted.
But no, he was actually like so brilliant in the way that he used to like teach me. I think he obviously never explained it quite. But what you were saying about like he was like, my mum was a midwife, so he was like, oh, this is where like babies come from, and so. But I think that was always so funny because I am the youngest one, and so I think I used to just come out with whatever. Yeah. Shush, Gwenna.
You said earlier about the difference between like agricultural students and non-agricultural. Like I noticed it more in secondary school than I ever do now in college. Just like, for instance, like when I was younger, I had somebody's parent ask my mum, so why doesn't Stuart go to the park? I was like, because he's at home and he wants to be at home. Yeah. Like, I never went to the park, whereas, you know, that difference.
It was 8 miles away as well. Like she was getting there.
That was my problem. One of the things that we sometimes see is that children from agricultural backgrounds don't always get on in school. There's certainly some kids who absolutely can't wait. The clock is ticking for them to be able to shut the door on the school gates and either get home or not have to go there again. That's my boys. And you know, and it's quite a common thing we see, particularly, you know, if there's multiple children, there's usually one who doesn't want to be in school and wants to be at home farming. You know, what are your thoughts on that? Is that something, because how do we make education more appealing? So obviously having the agriculture GCSE is one way. But
yes, that's a really good point, Kate. And I personally have that sort of fear with Harry at the moment. My middle son, Evie, my eldest. We hear a lot about Harry. Harry's a character, I reckon. Evie's my eldest. She's 8, and she loves school. She's a trier. Yeah. She struggles in school academically. But she's a trier. She absolutely tries her heart out. Yeah. She wants to do her best, and she loves school. She loves going. She's got friends and whatever. Harry's very academic, very bright, got the ability, but he's just like, I'm going to get his reading book out, and he's like, So, and he's 7, he's a year younger. So, you know, he's doing fine in school, you know, he's doing well, he's exactly where he needs to be. But, you know, he literally, like you say, he just can't wait to finish school. Like, but yeah, we've had these sort of conversations with him about, you know, it's absolutely fine for you to, you know, come home and farm if that's what you eventually want to do. But I said, you know, there's a long time to go yet, and you know, you might change your mind. But I talked to him about farming college. I said, well, you know, if you want to come home and farm, you'll at least have to go to college. I said, because you know, you've got to be able to learn to do all the things that you need to do. So he's like, oh, okay, yeah, well, perhaps I could do that. So I think it was like me. I absolutely hated school. I hated it. Like I was bullied in school, and because I was a farmer, and I just didn't get on in school. Academically, it was fine. You know, I passed on GCSEs and whatever, but it was literally like fire on my back. I actually wanted to be a vet, wanted to be a farm vet, but the thought after doing my GCSEs of going back and doing my A-levels was like, no way. So I ended up going to agricultural college and getting out of them. But I think for farming kids, I think once they move away from and they can focus on something that they enjoy, I think that education then is different. So I think the thought for him of doing like a GCSE in farming, you know, that'd be right up his street. He'd be like, you know, making it appealing, isn't it?
And
making it appealing. It's giving it those authentic experiences again.
That's where our education has kind of adapted to help us as agricultural. Just the vocational element of it.
And I think some of our primary schools as well, they've done over the last few years, which is something like we never did in school. They're doing a lot of like forest school, like well-being stuff, so being outdoors. Some of the teachers are really good. Like they're like, yep,
get the kids out, send the wellies in and overalls and stuff, and they just go out and they'll collect leaves and acorns and they'll get muddy and jump in puddles. And
worms and snails for me yesterday, and I can't stand bloody worms and snails. So
Yeah.
the fact I did that, I was like, high five me.
Yeah.
I've done my bit. And they're like, worm. I was like, that's lovely. Oh.
Over the winter, literally, my youngest has been to school and it's like jumping into muddy puddles. That's fine. Day 1, came home plastered in mud.
Yeah.
Then second day, I took them to school. I was like, oh, just put that coat on. It wasn't her coat. Came home, plastered in mud again. Third day, plastered in mud again. I was like, right, okay.
Don't
So
send nice clothes.
3 coats.
Yeah. But isn't that amazing though,
We
that
love
like,
it,
you know,
yeah.
that the curriculum is adapted to be able to allow children to kind of have those experiences and things, and that for me as a teacher, that is hugely important, you know. And I think like the common theme we've spoken about here, I think this afternoon, is, you know, very much it is, let's make this adaptive, let's give them these experiences and show them really what's out there, really, isn't it, in the world, to be able to kind of make those kind of informed decisions going forward. So kind of a couple of things. We've got one sort of question to sort of finish off, but what I wanted to kind of ask really, what are your hopes for kind of the future of education with what you're doing right now? And I know we've got kind of a different view with like your future. Somebody in your shoes, perhaps, Gwenna, in the next kind of 5 years or so, what would you like to hope for a veterinary student in 5 years? So my daughter, for example, really keen to do veterinary student. What are your hopes for when she goes to university that is available for her, maybe?
I think, again, I don't accidentally mean to say Aberystwyth. I think it's maybe...
You do it, Gilly.
intentional, to be honest.
Marley Cunningham wants to go to Edinburgh, so anything you can force her to go to Aberystwyth is going to be damn much cheaper.
She's got a banner in her pocket.
Sponsored.
But I think the way that they do... It's maybe not just the university, it's particularly the vet school, I think, because it's new, but also just the lecturers that happen to be the ones that are pushing it. So hopefully more universities will become like that. But the amount that they really are making sure that we're aware just how important mental health is, not in just ourselves, because obviously the profession of veterinary, but particularly within farm veterinary. I said that's, I think, why Aberystwyth was set up and pushed, was because you need more rural vets in Wales. And so for her, I think she would, I don't know, in terms of where veterinary is going, I think it needs to be, it is in the right direction is what I'm trying to say. It is going in the right way, and it needs to carry on, because the way that we've been taught and the things that we've got to experience sounds a lot different to what you might have had in school.
And not lose that momentum, I guess, isn't it, that we're kind of on, because it sounds really positive, isn't it?
And I think, it's just the amount that they really do make us aware that it's really important. I think that is something, well, I said awareness is always important, but it does move through into university, and hopefully it is trickling down in through even primary schools and everything.
Yeah, which is brilliant. And then I suppose, Stuart and Katie, then for you then, not only kind of your hopes with regards to your job and your role within education, but also your children. You know, we're all in the same position, we've got children of a similar age. You know, what are your hopes for them with regards to their education and in the future?
Yeah, I think it's just making sure that we keep those doors open, that, you know, students have got equal opportunities, especially, you know, in the sort of farming industry. We can be quite sort of short-sighted. So for me, it's, you know, the future of farming is young people. So we need to make sure that we've got the right young people in the industry. It's not about your background, who you are, where you come from. It's about having the right people for the job, so with the right attitude and the right skills, you know, equipping them, you know, with those skills. And you know, we talked about some of those skills, like being resilient, for example. So how do we teach them those skills, as well as the, you know, the farming skills they need to go into the industry? So I think it's keeping the door open and those opportunities. And I think for the students that perhaps don't come from a non-farming background, is those opportunities to have placements and working on farm and trying to, because again, you ask farmers to have a student for placement, and the first thing they'll say is, "Oh, what can they do? What if they want?" It's
got to be practical. They want help, don't they? It's difficult to get them to understand that education.
So it's really tricky to find those placements, but there are placements out there, and we've got some fantastic. I actually spoke to one last night, and he's had one of our level 3 students, and I was a bit worried about him going there, because he's a nice boy, but he's quite quiet. He's a little bit, you know, relaxed, but he's brilliant.
Yeah,
he loves him.
fantastic.
You know, he said, he's doing really well. You know, he's reliable. He gets on with everyone. He does his jobs. There's no issue. So it's about. Sorry, I'm rambling on.
No.
It's about keeping it open for everyone, opportunities, making sure that everyone gets a chance. And in terms of my children, I don't know. It's the same, really. I suppose.
Let's get Harry to agricultural college. Will Mum be teaching him by then?
Get Harry through school.
Harry.
Get Harry through school. It's just making sure they're happy.
Yeah.
I just want them to be happy.
Enjoy
to
their education.
enjoy their education the best they can. But yeah, that sort of outdoor learning is quite key for my children, because they just love learning outdoors and they love nature and being outdoors. So anything like that we can bring into it is going to be key. But yeah, it's just making sure we can equip them as educators with those skills to go forward, to go into the industry and
prepare them.
Yeah, and prepare them for the challenges that they're going to face, really.
Yeah,
That, and those opportunities that perhaps that we didn't have when we were in education.
Yeah, definitely.
I suppose totally agree with what Katie's just said. For me, it's like building on that is also that making sure they're okay.
Yeah.
Like having your door open all the time.
Yeah,
There's
to
the
be that
amount,
person.
when I was back in university, literally, I'd knock on my lecturer's door and they'd be like, yes. And it was like, that isn't support.
I had no relationship with my lecturers. There was nothing.
So for me, it's like that door's got to be open.
Yeah.
Just ask them, are you okay? How's today going? Like simple questions. Be there as their support. Because everyone goes through bad patches. Everyone is there for each other. We as an agricultural community have to build ourselves together.
Yeah.
So as much as working through placements and things like that, it's also just know who your neighbour is.
Yeah.
Because farming community, in a town, you wouldn't know who your neighbour is from day to day. But actually farmers have started a bit of that as well, because people are selling, buying. Actually speak to your neighbour, get to know them, see if you can work together to do something. And that's build that relationship back.
Yeah, off the back of that, I've also I didn't mention it, but YFC plays a huge
massive
role.
Yeah, we haven't touched on that really in the education that can provide.
Absolutely massive role, and again for non-farming students, I don't know how many conversations I've tried to students, right, you've got to join YFC. It's please join YFC. You can just be a social member if you don't want to compete, just make friends, just socialise, just I said literally it'll be the best thing that you will ever do. You'll make friends for life, you'll have experiences for life.
And skills
for life.
Skills are massive. Like Mali knows more about the sheep. She will get them ready to go right before I ever could, because I never went to IFC. I didn't have that opportunity. But
there's those practical skills and knowledge, and public speaking and confidence. And
you can tell in your lessons who's been to IFC.
Absolutely. Although Mali's difficult at the moment is the teachers keep saying to her, well, you should be able to do that because you do public speaking. She's like, oh, bloody hell. But no, I think the important sort of thing, to come sort of finish from here, really, I suppose, is that we all got a part to play within the education. I know that obviously officially, you're educators, and obviously within your role in university, you're educating your peers because you're bringing in the likes of us to support with that, which is really important. And obviously your experience having grown up in that farming environment as well. And I suppose we've all got that kind of ability to be an educator within our industry, haven't we? And I think we've all got that. We need that as well. So I think it's sort of time to.
Can I ask one last question? Two last questions. So this quick fire question for everybody. I'll come to you first, Stuart. What tip or tips would you have for somebody who's in education at the moment, or who's a parent of a student? What would you give them? One thing.
Oh, why do I get the first one? Be honest. Honesty is a massive thing.
Yeah, don't fluff it up.
No, don't glorify something that's not.
Yeah.
Just be honest with yourself, with the people around you. That's
I think that's great. Brilliant. Yeah, I think that's really good.
Gwenna, what would your tip be?
I don't feel very qualified to answer these questions.
No.
I think speak to each other. I've gone back to what you just said about YFC. I completely second that. That was the best thing I ever did, was join YFC, because just talking to each other, talking, like you said, to your lecturers and building that relationship, it's made such a difference in just even the person I am between starting university and who I am now, because I just had the little bit of confidence just to start conversations, and they've got completely blossomed into brilliant things. And so just don't be scared to put yourself out there, and ask the questions and make the relationships, because that's what lasts and that's what's important going
Build those
through.
connections, isn't it? Yeah.
Thank you. And Katie, what's...
I would say most important thing for me is be passionate. I love this quote from Roald Dahl, and I can't remember.
Oh my God, I know exactly what you're
It's
going to say.
lukewarm is no good.
That I've got that on my wall.
Yeah, it's be
I knew you were
passionate
gonna
because
say-
lukewarm is no
Yeah,
good.
it's never good, yeah.
You gotta love it. If you don't love it,
Yeah,
there's
don't
just
bother.
absolutely no point. You gotta find someone you love. So
Yeah.
be passionate and ask for help. Ask for help when you need it. I don't know how many students are like, just ask me.
Yeah.
Ask for help.
I've got that quote on my wall in my classroom, and it's really a brilliant one. It is. It's like if you don't do it, if you're not going to put the passion into it and the effort into it, it's like and I think in agriculture it's definitely something you've got to kind of do.
If you don't love it, it's not right for you.
It's not right for you.
It's
No.
not right for you.
And going off what you just said about ask for help, like if you think I don't understand that, I guarantee there's someone else who doesn't.
Oh, absolutely.
So like right the
Yeah.
way through education, whether you're primary
such
school
thing
or
as stupid questions.
Exactly
I
that.
ask many.
No, definitely.
yeah, but
I love questions. Love it.
So
I can't answer it.
the final question then, we're asking everybody at the end of each of our podcasts is about what do you do to empty your bucket. We've all got buckets, they get filled with lots of different things, but what do you do to help empty that bucket? So quick fire, what do you do to empty your bucket, Katie?
Just go out on the farm. I love it. My
Yeah.
kids, my dog.
I suppose in education, you've got, that's your
Gathers.
kind of like...
That is
nice bit,
my
Yeah.
my happy place. Any farming job, anything.
Brilliant.
Love
Good.
it.
Gwenna.
If I'm by myself, I love to just go to the beach or just sing. I really enjoy those sort of things. But if I'm with a group of us, we've got a thing where we quite like going to Morrison's hot chicken counter and sitting in our cars and eating the chicken. And it's actually become like a little tradition that we all joke about now. But I know, it's so silly, but it just works. You're just sat in a car listening to music, eating your little chicken wings.
watching people walk past.
Davey's recorded the podcast is going to find Gwenna in Aberystwyth Morrison's by the chicken counter. I remember you.
Look out for us and be like, what do you do?
Oh my God, I want to be a student again. I miss those days. Life is so simple, but a chicken,
It just
hot
fixes
chicken.
everything. You feel so much better after.
Oh,
Do you know what?
The four
We've
kids
asked
used to that
so
at
many
McDonald's.
people these questions, haven't we? Like, I've asked it, and I have some really random things that people said to me. There's one bloke who just like stroking a bull, and there's other things, but that, you win. You won. Out of the thousands of people that I have trained, you win.
Well, I have to say that one.
Chicken counter in Morrison.
Well, when it was mentioned in our talk, we realised actually quite a few of us do it. And we all do it either by ourselves or together, but it seems to be working.
It's a thing.
If it works, it works.
Beat that, Stu.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, definitely not going to beat that. So pre-children, I had one specific cow that I'd literally cuddle to.
Aw.
She was my baby, and whatever happened that day, I'd go and like just lie by her. But obviously, kids trump that for me. Like 3 kids now is
Yeah.
whatever happens outside, and I know you shouldn't say it, but you've got to try and close that door.
Yeah.
Your family is you've created that.
Yeah.
They're there for you as much as
Compartmentalise
you are
it,
there for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they help me through everything.
Amazing.
It's a lot more wholesome than my answer.
Well, I don't know. Chicken would fill you up, wouldn't it?
I really like chickens. So I am with you there. If I'm ever in Aberystwyth, I'm going to call you up and we're going to go for chicken at the Morrison's counter.
Where's the closest Morrison's to here?
Half to us, 8 miles away. Not like a really close park. We can't walk there. Can reach you to anything like that.
They're not sponsored by.
Yeah, Aberystwyth and Morrison's. You're going to get deals from this. I'm telling you now. It's brilliant. I can't thank you all enough, really. You know, firstly for coming down and kind of spending the afternoon with us, but you know, just being so open and honest and things. You are all making an incredible difference within your work and and I can't wait to see where you're going to be in the future. And if I've got any animals that you'd like to do post-mortem, please. Hopefully not too many, but you're welcome to come anytime. But I can't thank you all enough. You've been, you know, hugely valuable, and I'm sure like lots of people will get a lot out of our conversation today. So thank you very much.
Yeah, but also thank you very much, Emma, for all the work you do. Kate, you don't realise how many people you've helped. So thank you very much.
No, it's thank you. I'm not going to say any more because I'll start crying. Thank you very much.